That's what I'm doing right now. Question of the day. Do hip hop heads, or maybe why, or maybe I should have put why but do hip hop heads care more about the region an artist is from than the art itself? Well, that one went far. Come on in here, chat room. Come on in here. Do hip hop kids care more about the region than the song or the art? What's up, Tanya Marie? Number one in here. I'm asking this question. This is a serious question because where was I? I was at a shindig somewhere. I think it was Friday. No, it was Friday. I was at a shindig, and it was like a newer artist that was being played, and the first thing that a couple people asked me was, "Hey, Dwann, where's this person from?" I'm not, and and I didn't know because I don't really, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm asking this question because maybe I'm the one that thinks different, and oftentimes I used to get really mad at things, but I found out after a while that I just think differently. So I just kind of want to know what this is about. Noah Randall, you kind of, this nigga Noah Randall came right with it. The drama and the self-snitching. Damn, Noah, you kind of jump right to the point. Let me, calm down. Let me, that was a good answer. I wasn't even ready for that. What's up, G-Man? So, Scotty, are you driving West Virginia to Virginia? That's dope. Like I said, I'm very impressed by truck drivers. I got nothing but love and respect for truck drivers because I love to drive. But y'all that drive and haul for a living 8, 10, 12-hour days on that road, man, y'all got nothing but my respect. Because America does not move without our truck drivers. Gotta always remember that. Nothing happens in America without our truck drivers, our trained engineers. I gotta show love and respect to the real careers out there, because I talk music and stuff like that, but we gotta look at our people who really make this country run again as heroes in a lot of ways too. And I ain't talking about people who just moved to this country and just coming up on some shit that, off industry that we created. I'm talking about the people who do it professionally. Even if you're from somewhere else, the professional truck drivers, not the people who are over here on some damn visa, they're gonna be driving truck for 2 years and doing something else. Y'all undercut the price of wages, people like y'all. But to the real truckers, salute to y'all. But back to what I was saying. What's up, Netta J? Y'all, Netta J's in here early. Netta's usually coming up in here when I'm signing off with 2 minutes left. Oh shit, you went to the Kendrick Scissor concert? That's what's up. But I asked that question because I was at a shindig on Friday, and when a person asked, I didn't know the answer because I don't really be caring too much about where an artist is from. I more so find out later. Once I kind of get into something and you kind of go in, now you want to learn who the artist made some really good music that made you feel a certain way, and you want to know a little bit more about that artist. That's when I may find out where they're from. But usually, especially if an artist just makes a regular song that doesn't really impress me, I'm probably never going to know where they're from. Because the way my head works is it's about the music. Do you make good music or don't you make good music? And where you from comes later down the line. But I was asking that because I was also asking not only good because good and bad is subjective. But me, is I remember, I know because I'm more of an R&B guy than I am a rap hip hop. I'm more R&B, but it's all Black American music. All of it's blues-based music, whether it be R&B, everything is based in blues and jazz. So whether it be hip hop, R&B, disco, house, whatever you listen to a child of the blues and the jazz. And coming from those sounds, especially R&B, I'm going to ask generally, okay, what is this song talking? Before I ask where's this artist from, I'm going to think, okay, what the fuck is this song talking about, first of all? Why, what are we talking about here? You know, what's the song talking about? You know, get into the melody of it, you know, the song structure. I'll be having a million questions to ask about a song before I get to where that artist is from. And I want to know where that comes from. I want to know where that comes from. Here we go. Got this subscriber mode on to get these trolls out of here. You niggas. But like, so chat room, this is more of a Q&A. That's why I did this one from my phone. That's why today was from the phone. Yeah, hit the like button. Hit the like button. Why does it matter so much? Because I think that, and I'm not going to be here all night tonight, but personally, I think it's just part of, it's another level, and I don't want, what I mean? You know, you're right, trolls trolls are sorry. Hey, look, yeah, if you ain't here trolling, just understand this. You a motherfucking loser, okay? People who go in the chat rooms to troll, oh my God. Now, if you 14 years old, that's one thing. You know, when I was 14, I would do shit like that in Yahoo chat. But a lot of you niggas is in your 20s, 30s. Some of y'all in y'all 50s and you trolling. See, people who troll and you in your 20s, y'all the kind of niggas that saw your daddy get beat up by your mama. Y'all, that's y'all. You know, you had to, you probably had your father in the home, but your father used to get beat up by women. You just forever see him as a bitch. So when you look in the mirror, you see a bitch. Cause your mom just whop, whop, beat that nigga ass. So you see a nigga like me, and you get mad. Cause you probably get slapped around by your gal too. So somebody said origin matters in all of music, doesn't it? Yeah, in some ways it does. Some like further down the line, it's not necessarily the first question that you ask, is where a person is from. Because that's the thing. I only see this in hip hop. I don't see this, you know, because all music is regional. Blues is regional, jazz is regional, R&B is regional, funk is regional, disco is regional. Every form of music, house, everything is regional. The only thing that's not as regional is pop, because pop is generally intended to cross all regions. But that's also why pop is generally watered down music. Pop is 85% of the time, in today's world, 95% of the time. Back in the 70s, it was a little, probably half the time, but like now, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, pop is just watered down bullshit. So, but outside of pop music, Like really, all sounds are regional. I wouldn't say black people are scared of house, but we do think it is sissy music. I won't say we're not scared of house. It's just house don't really fit this dynamic out here. You come in here with all this sunshine music. See, house is music for you niggas that's doing parties in basements. And we do parties in backyards. See the difference? House is for that basement shit. LA niggas gotta be in this sun. We gotta be in the sun. It's this house doesn't make sense out here to us. And you're right. And if out here, yeah, mostly only sissies listen to house out here. Women and sissies. Like, not too many straight dudes listening to house music in LA. Yeah, because Chicago cold as fuck. You gotta have house music in. That's what it's called. Yeah, that's a Chicago and Detroit music house. Because it's cold as fuck. So you gotta party in basements and houses and shit. Cold ass city, all that wind. Y'all can't backyard boogie 12 months a year like we do here. Your environment you're in dictates the sound. Oh shit, there go that skunk. That skunk that Rocky be trying to fight is coming down the street. Houses doesn't vibe with our environment, you know? Yeah. House does not vibe with our environment out here. Only people stuck in the house is the gay boys out here, and that's what they do. That's that dookie digging music to us. But no disrespect. No disrespect. They got their world, we got ours. And second off, you gotta remember house is just disco. Disco was actually, the first disco song comes out of LA. Book it. House is just disco. That's all it is. It's electronic disco. House is the disco what hip hop is to funk. We just prefer the funk hip hop side of the game out here. But Love's Theme by Barry White, house / disco is structured off of Barry White and what he made out here in LA. But again, see, you know this. This goes back to the topic that we're talking about. In hip hop, they regionalize things, but the reason why it's so fucking corny to me is most of hip hop is sample based, and the samples cross regions. No one state has the most musical history. People try to force it and make it Louisiana. Philadelphia is just as strong. I mean, not even the whole state of Pennsylvania. Just the city of Philadelphia has just as much music history as Louisiana. So I don't get into what has the most and what don't, because the story is oftentimes mistold. And when you find out the real deal, you find out the story is bigger than what you think it is. Gene Page didn't influence Barry White. Gene Page was Barry White's string arranger. He worked with Barry White, Gene Page. He arranged all the strings you hear, some of the horn sections. So but the thing that's a trip me out about hip hoppers, Biggie, okay, East Coast, but they say, okay, West Coast beats. What's a West Coast beat? Well, they are West Coast beats. West Coast has a sound, but it's a lot of sounds, and you know, Biggie used a lot of like Hypnotize was by Herb Alpert. He's out of LA. It's a white trumpeter. No, all of pop does not owed to its origin to Louisiana, Mississippi. That's the biggest lie ever. That's the biggest lie ever. When people talk about, oh, everything comes from the South, that's like the same thing as, that's just as big of a lie as people saying all of it comes from Africa. The South is a lie. The Africa thing is a lie, because they omit all of the free black music that was going on here in America. Like people will turn around and be like, okay, yeah, well, all comes from, well, gospel's Southern. Well, why was the first gospel hymn book written in Philadelphia if gospel Southern? No, Mississippi's not the roots of American music. No, it's not. No, it's not. Neither is Louisiana. Philadelphia has Boston, Philadelphia, New York, D.C., Cincinnati, Detroit, Chicago. Yeah, jazz and blues is a root, but that's not a Louisiana, Mississippi thing. No, it's not. See, you got to realize jazz and blues, they're the root for what we play, but jazz and blues aren't the root of American. There was a time before jazz and blues. Blues came in the 1890s. Early 1900s. The early 1900s when blues came in. Jazz came in about 1920. Do you understand that there were 300 years of music before that in America? What about parlor music? A lot of what's in blues is found in some of the parlor music. What about classical? Go listen to 70s music. 70s music is, especially 70s R&B, it has just as much classical as it has anything else. Like ragtime, you have ragtime was around, but before ragtime, you had the one of the most popular artists of all time in American history was a man named Francis Johnson out of Philadelphia. First to tour Europe. He said, what about African drums? Okay, I'll give you an answer. Name the African drum used in American music. If you want to know about what African drums have to do with American music and Congo Square, okay, what Congo Square drums, what African music drums have you ever heard in a Parliament Funkadelic song, in a Duke Ellington song, in a Count Basie, Whitney Houston, hell, Kendrick Lamar? Name the African drum you've heard. Yeah, Beethoven was melanated. Beethoven the Moor. See, what they did was they effectively erased the North out of our music history, because if they tell you the music history of the North, then they have to tell you that black people weren't all enslaved. And they don't want to tell you that, do they? And what about Mississippi and Louisiana? Do you know that Mississippi got the majority of its slaves from, he said, somebody said denialism. I just asked you to name the African drum. He said, this dude literally asked me, what about African drums, Congo Square, New Orleans? I said, okay, name the African drum. That's not denial. I'm asking you to educate me, Priester John. If those are African drums used, then name the African drum. All drums have a name. Like, every single drum has a name. Like this. That's not denial. That's not hating. Every single drum has a name. Name the African drums that we use. That's all I asked. That shouldn't even be an offensive question. You threw the statement out. If you throw out a statement, be ready to defend what you throw out. It's not hard. See, see what happens is we live in a world of cliches. People repeat cliches, repeat what was told to them, repeat what they heard, and the minute you repeat, you question what they repeat, it becomes. I'm not saying it's about that particular person, about Priester. This is just in general. You're either going to get called a hater or say, "Oh, you denying Africa" or something like that. No, every drum has a name. Every drum, every part of a drum has a name. Every piece of a drum has a name. And there are thousands of African drums all with names. Yes, no, Africans do name their drums. Yes, they do. And enslaved Africans in Louisiana didn't have drums. It was against the law. See, that's why we got to get rid of this whole fantasy shit. Like you got to know the laws of the land. African drums weren't even legal in Louisiana. Drums weren't even like. And then the drums that were there in America, they all have names. All of them. And name the drums that from Africa that we use today. That's all I'm saying. There are illustrations of enslaved Africans playing drums. First off, you don't know they're from Africa. Second off, how is it an African drum if it's an illustration? If the drum was made down the street, how's it an African drum? Our ethnogenesis makes states matter to black people. Like, I mean, these are some questions that y'all have just been hearing the same shit repeated to you over and over and over and over and over and over again. You never took time to think. And also to just read about your country. Do you understand that in Mississippi, the majority of people enslaved in Mississippi and Louisiana were already there? The United States didn't get Louisiana until 1804. Slavery stopped in 1808. The Mississippian Wars of the 1750s. The French only brought in 25,000 slaves, and most of those was from the Caribbean, not from Africa. The French only brought in 25,000 when they controlled that region. The majority of people, it's a book. My books are upstairs. All you have to do is read books on the intercontinental slave trade. There were 100,000 slaves brought into Mississippi from Virginia, between Virginia and North Carolina, between 1815 and 1819. There was another estimated 90,000 that was brought in from the Ohio, Illinois, Michigan region down to Mississippi. A lot of your Mississippi and Louisiana slaves came from the north, not from Africa. There was a full repopulation of Mississippi that went on between 1810 and 1845. There were people, so you have a lot of people, even if you read a lot of the slave documents, people who were released from slavery in Louisiana and Mississippi. The first thing they were doing was putting out ads trying to reunite with their friends and their family from the north and their children. Go and look that shit up during Reconstruction. A lot of your Mississippi slaves former slaves, they were looking to reconnect with family from Philadelphia, reconnect with family from Kentucky, from Minnesota. Again, that's how they lied to you guys through omission. They just lied through omission. I know about Jamaicans being brought into the Mississippi coast. Do you know about the 30,000 Jamaicans, the Americans that got sent from Indiana to Jamaica in the 1820s? Do you know about that, Preacher John? You know about the 30,000 plus black people from the central heartland of America being sent to Jamaica? Huh? You hear about that? Go look it up. Everybody want to jump to Africa, and then a damn thing African what we do. That's so disrespectful to Africa, and niggas can't even name the part of Africa they talking about. What's up, Jay Jimerson? Yeah, that Bob Marley looking Juneteenth, Sam Goose, you right. My blood almost went out. Well, Jamaica, Priest John will go to Jamaica and Africa and kick it with them niggas. We different over here. Does African music play a back? Name the African sound that has a plays with a backbeat. That's on the 2 and the 4. Name it. You can't, because they don't do it over there. They don't do it in the Caribbean. They don't do it in China. They don't do it in Australia. They don't play like that in Belize. They don't play like that in Argentina. They don't play like that in Egypt. They don't play like that in India or Mongolia. The backbeat is core to America. That's the thing that makes America different is backbeat. And nowhere else in the world plays it like that. They do now. It's taken for granted now. When you hear backbeat now, that's the snare crowning on the 2 and the 4. You take it for granted now. But if you all you gotta do is strip back and go to everywhere that plays that sound, listen to their native music. Their native music plays on top, plays on the 1 and the 3, plays the front beat, not the back beat. You only start finding backbeat in music around the world in the last 70 years. Before 70 years ago, nobody played with a backbeat, except for America. Capiche? It's very easy. What happens, see, this is what happens. People are caught in these fantasies. They read, they hear this stuff and they draw these scant, almost zero connections to have this fantasy about a Wakanda that never existed. But when it comes to going back to the question of regions, no one like that was a thing that really got popularized in hip hop, and really in the 90s, Vibe magazine, East Coast West Coast beef, and Source. A lot of that stuff got sent nationwide then. See, before that, it was like we knew New Yorkers were regional and they were very, gatekeepish about the art form. But we didn't know it was that fucking serious until the 90s. Like, yo, these niggas really do. Y'all really do. Like, but all of your music is from all across the United States. How are you regional when 90%, 98% of the music you sample ain't even from your region? You're sampling genres that didn't start in your region. Like, people always talk about South this and South that. Okay, if all of our music is South, where did the piano come from? Where did the piano come from? Did the piano come from the South? Or did it come from the Moors in Europe? And when the piano came to America, where did it come to? Did the piano come to America by way of Louisiana? Question. When the piano came to America, did it come through Mississippi? Did it come through Louisiana? Or did it come through Boston, Philadelphia, and New York? I want somebody to Google, because I'm on my phone, Google, and I want somebody in the chat room to do it. Google where Charlie Parker came from. Google where Charlie Parker came from. Because earlier people were saying, well, jazz comes from the South. You don't if you just say that, you don't understand jazz. Jazz is just Black American improvisational music. And jazz doesn't get stuck in any place or time. Charlie Parker's from Kansas City. Thank you. Do you guys know that the saxophone was a dead instrument created in Europe? And I think it's created in 1859. None of your Southern jazz bands played with an alto sax as a lead. They may have been in the big band, but big band really came with Kansas City. It was Charlie Parker that made the saxophone an instrument. Do people know that? Charlie Parker. Ornette Coleman. Somebody Google Ornette Coleman. And you know who else made the sax popular? Lester Young. Now, Lester Young is from the South. He went through New Orleans. I think it's from rural Mississippi, then went by New Orleans. But Lester Young picked up the saxophone when he got up to Kansas City. Yet Lester Young started out as a drummer. It was Charlie Parker that made the saxophone a lead instrument, the alto sax, and created the bebop sound that is a direct father of hip hop. He's from Kansas City. Big band, swing, that's the Kansas City sound. Gospel music started in Chicago. The gospel hymn book comes out of Philadelphia. But what we know is like gospel music to today, that's Chicago. Before Thomas Dorsey, they weren't having instruments in the church and playing that blues style of music. It was more hymns. It was hymns, and it was ring shouts. It was the foot stomp. That was church before Thomas Dorsey. Thomas Dorsey brought the music into the church. He did that in Chicago. Now ask yourself again, what's the most important state to come to our music? You can't name the most important state. See, when you know a little more, what's one thing I want, part of what I do here, I need Black people to understand that those are white people that create these tiny little boxes for your music to fit in. Music doesn't fit in a tiny little box, in a tiny little region, in a tiny little genre. No, music is a group collective effort. Bands don't make songs for states. Appreciate the super chat, but bands make songs to be better than the other band. Most bands are trying to beat the band down the street. Yeah, the foot stomp is definitely African. The ring shout isn't. The ring shout is Indian. I said the foot stomp and the ring shout, didn't I? The fire dance? The fire dance is Indian. The fire dance and the foot stomp have similar, they're very similar. And the way, when you look at somebody crip walk, that's a lot more closer to your fire dances and your rain dances than what you see what they're doing over in Mali. See, that's the thing. You niggas don't know shit about what the American Indian was doing. You hear 2 or 3 things about what was happening in Africa, think that was the only place in the world that was happening. If you understood Native American Indian music, knew what the fire dance was, the fire dance and the ring shot was the same fucking thing. And they was fire dancing before the European got here. No, the crip walk is not a derivative of no goddamn New Orleans line dancing. No. No, the fuck is not. Niggas been in LA for 2 or 3 generations by the time the crip walk came out. Footwork is from black people. Footwork is from black people, and a lot of us were Indians. We were reclassified to Negro 100-some-odd years ago, 150 years ago. Go look at, all right, go look at the rain dance. All the footwork they doing. What the fuck are you talking about? Go look at the rain dance. And a lot of the people out of Louisiana are Indians too. That's Indian territory. Since nothing happened. If you read your American history, you'll know that after slavery, during Reconstruction, when black people were going throughout, and they didn't move up north right away. They didn't move up north right away. They moved from plantations to the cities, and vagrancy laws forced a lot of black people into the cities to find work because if they didn't want to work on a plantation, and New Orleans had plenty of work. So yeah, a lot of people come from rural Mississippi and rural Louisiana to go work in New Orleans. Same thing with the Indians. A lot of reservations would become resource deprived. They couldn't live on their native lands. The same way a lot of black people couldn't no longer afford to live on their native lands. A lot of Indians couldn't afford to live on their native lands either. The economy was changing into a more industrial economy, less dependent on old school farming and things like that in the 1870s. You know, England is changing the world with the Industrial Revolution. That's why you niggas need to know more about Africa. The world is bigger than Africa. Nigga, learn English history, European history, American history, and see the totality of what was going on. England set that Industrial Revolution off in the late 1800s, and the world was becoming more industrialized. So a lot of your Indians had to move to cities too. And the black Indians, if you go and study New Orleans history, the black Indians and the Negroes were forced to live in the same neighborhoods in the 1870s, 80s, and 90s, and 1900s. Same thing in Memphis. See, this is what they'll do. They'll talk to you all day about New Orleans, but they never talk to you about Memphis. Memphis is where things really got cracking just as hard in Memphis as they was in New Orleans, especially with the blues. Especially with the blues. That was Memphis. Memphis is in Tennessee. And so the same thing in Memphis, the same thing in Birmingham, the same thing in all of the cities. You have black people leaving plantations post-slavery, and you have a lot of Indians moving to cities because the plantations the native rural land, they want the kids grow up, they want to move to the city. That's where the money's at. That's where the action's at. So a lot of Indians are moving to the cities, and they're being grouped with Negroes. That's how Baby Dodds got to the cities. One of the most influential drummers of all time, Baby Dodds, his dad was an Indian fire drummer. A hollow log drummer. An Indian. So New Orleans, all the cities, New Orleans, Birmingham, Mississippi, anywhere there was a city, Mobile, the Indians and the Negroes were forced to live on the same side of town. And a lot of cross-pollination of cultures happened at that point. But they'll get you focused on a couple of Jamaicans that came, less than 400,000 Africans that came, and not the millions upon millions upon millions upon millions, tens of millions of native black Negroes, freedmen, and American Indians that were copper colored. Fucking Webster dictionary tells you the Indians were fucking copper colored people, and the niggas go run right back to Africa. My only thing is this: I don't mind you talking about Africa at all. Just go live there. That's all I'm saying. Wherever you live, where you love, like live where you love. Live like Khalees. I respect Khalees. People are criticizing her for being Pan-African. I'm like, well, shit. At least she over there. Hey, look, I ain't got no issues with Pan-Africans that are in Africa, or at least spend a few months a year there. I ain't got no issues with that. That's what we need. We need more Pan-Africans. Go on over there. You can still live here too, but show it. Don't preach it. Show it. If you're gonna live here, if you're gonna live in America 12 months a year, 24/7, then I don't respect your Pan-Africanism. I just don't. Live it. Would you respect a pimp that ain't got no hoes? Would you respect the basketball player that can't shoot? Do what you say you do. And if you do it, let's roll. I'm not gonna do it, but I respect you. But if you ain't gonna be about it, then there's nothing to fucking talk about. But I respect Khalees for doing that. I saw people kind of, James Smalls. See, James Smalls had that sign of lodge. I love James Smalls. He's someone who identifies as his American Indian side. He identifies with his Africanist side. And James Smalls had that Sana Lodge in Nigeria that he had for a while. James Smalls really put his money where his mouth is. I respect James Smalls. I respect James Smalls a lot. I interviewed him on the channel once, years ago. I did not interview James Smalls. We talked. We talked on the phone once. I interviewed Brother Kaba Kamene on this channel about 4 years ago. I interviewed Brother Kaba Kamene once. But back to what we was talking about, the whole regional thing. See, that's the thing. The story of the regions, and I talk to you guys from the point of view of a musician that don't play no more. That when you get up and when you know how music is done, it's a collaboration of everybody. It's people from all across one song can have anywhere from 5 to 40 people involved in that song. 60 people, depending on how much orchestration is done. And let's say the average song, if you do, okay, rhythm section, drums, bass, keys, guitar, lead singer. That's 5 people. And then let's say if you have a 3-piece horn section, now you're at 8. Say you have 3 background singers. Now you at 11. That's 11 different energies and opinions and regions going into that song. Your background singers may be let's say, okay, your background singers are, I think Honeycomb's from LA, but the Andantes, they from Detroit. Let's say your horn section may be a couple guys from Mississippi, another one from, because they'll say the South. The South is extremely different in expression. A Mississippi musician and expression is completely different than Virginia. And that's completely different than from Florida. Northern Florida and Southern Florida, completely different sounds. Panhandle Florida versus South Carolina, completely different flavors. You say, I'm not liking the video. I say stop explaining and delineate. Hey, I'm not gonna argue with you. But on one song, you're gonna have people from all across the country on one song. And then let's go to the producer. Once you have all that stuff put in together, where's your producer from? Your producer's gonna be from one city, part of the country. Your arranger is gonna be from a different part of the country. Your composer is gonna be from another part of the country. And oftentimes, the person singing lead or the person rapping are the least responsible for a song being a hit. The people be from all over the place. The only thing you know is the lead. Only thing you know is the lead. And these are the sounds that hip hop samples from. Like, I know a lot of times I confuse you hip hop heads because y'all be like, well, you talking about R&B. Well, God damn it, 95% of the hip hop hits are R&B samples. So yeah, got to deal with it because the music is what makes a song a hit, more so than the rapper. If you niggas cared about rappers, you listen to them rap a cappella, and I don't see you niggas doing that. You're into the music because of you're into the rapper because of the music. Okay? And then if you just keep it hip hop and just deal with, say, somebody like, when you look at the Bomb Squad in New York, that was New York production, but there was a lot of James Brown and Parliament samples. You look at Biggie, like a lot of your Bad Boy sampled a lot of Detroit, a lot of LA Motown and Detroit sound, So is Detroit not supposed to get any credit? They made the fucking music. It was good enough for you to fucking take it and rap over it, wasn't it? What's up, mister? Appreciate that, Shorty McGriff. You gotta understand all this regional categorization shit. Man, that's they shit. Because they didn't create it. I'm not gonna call them stupid or slow or call them anything like that. It's just that if you don't create something, you gotta find a way to explain it. That's those of us who create the sound. What? Don't really care. First off, I'm talking about the true creators. The best thing is the music right. He said being from Central Florida, growing up in the 90s, West Coast and Midwest was always bumping into speakers. That's because the West Coast and the Midwest and the South have a deeper bond, have a closer cultural connection than, say, the upper Northeast. When you go from DC up to Boston, that whole Philadelphia, New York. You're dealing with Baltimore. You're dealing with congested cities, mass transit, subways. You know, urban. You know, development. High New York high-rise buildings that's one thing. In the South, in LA, in the Midwest, is car culture. Because Ohio, Dayton, Cleveland, all that stuff, all those places, they have car culture, you know? Yeah, and we have car culture in LA. Oakland, car culture. Down south, car culture. That's a bigger car culture than the upper Northeast, and places with mass transit. Places with these mass transit systems are a little bit different, Ohio, than the places with car culture. And so places with extensive car culture are gonna have a similar kind of music. Music in the car is part of our life. You know, in LA, see, people don't understand. The auto industry socially engineered LA into a car city. LA is the biggest. That's why the first interchange the first freeway interchange in the world is the 110 to the 101, just above North, where y'all saw the Mexicans protesting last week for the whole ICE raids. Just about 2 X's west of where they were protesting was the first freeway interchange ever built in the world, where you can get off one freeway and get onto the next freeway without getting off. That was the first one ever. Because what they did here in LA was during the 1940s and 50s, they peeled up all of the tracks for the trains. LA had great public transit. We had LA had trains going down PCH in 1890. LA had a good train system. Ford and General Motors paid the city of LA to pick up all those tracks, widen the streets, make these freeways so that they can premiere their cars here. They wanted a place to sell their cars, and so they built factories down here. Like a lot of your Ford and General Motors parts manufacturers were in LA for a lot of car parts, a lot of car accessory stuff. Those places were here in LA. People don't know that. They think it's just the Midwest. LA had a lot of car jobs in the 50s and the 60s and 70s and 80s. Tires and shit like that was built here. And the freeway system and the way the streets in LA is engineered, that's why our streets are so wide. LA, they were like, and that's why a lot of your design was here up until the 90s. I remember Honda was like right down the street from me up until like the 90s. Honda, Toyota, Volvo, Ford, they were in Orange County. A lot of your design centers were here in LA. So LA is where they really featured the car. And the Midwest is car areas because it's spread out. LA used to be spread out. The South spread out. Didn't have these mass train systems. So the music had to reflect the hour, 2 hours a day that you spend in your car. So that's why people from Florida, people from Texas, they vibed out so much more to West Coast music. Because LA music and Oakland music was music you can ride in your car to. You ain't trying to ride in your car to boom, bah, boom. That's cool sometime. But if you're in Philadelphia, if you're in New York and you're in the concrete jungle, then you gotta boom bap, boom, bah, boom, bah, because it's loud as fuck. subways. You got these 2 million foot tall buildings. You got 1 million people walking down the street. Your music gotta cut through that shit. Nigga, you in your car, you ain't trying to hear that shit. Like, you might turn it on for like 10 minutes or listen to it in your car, you know. But that boop bap shit, man, if you're in the South, if you're on the West Coast, it's like, man, that shit loud. That shit loud. Let me slow the song down. Use more melody, use more harmony. Because we're here in a green environment. It's parks and trees fucking everywhere. So you want to hear music that's going to be in harmony with nature. And that's what the West Coast provides. So if you're in one of those environments to where you out in nature and you driving through your car, you're probably going to lean more to that sound than you would hear toom, pa, toom. Versus the same time, if you're in New York and you have all these high-rise buildings and subways and shit, West Coast music's probably going to bore you. It's going to be like, this shit's too soft. Like, I can get how New Yorkers don't like West Coast and Southern music. It's too slow. It's too soft. It doesn't cut through their environment. That's why, you know, I don't mind, you know, talking about regions because there's most definitely regional differences in music. But within that, you're still going to find people you like, artists you like. And if you don't listen to an artist because of where they from and you like the song, that's kind of weird. We used to have, yeah, New York had boombox. We used to have boombox out here too. And when I was a kid growing up in the 80s, and it seemed like every nigga walking down Slauson had a boombox. But niggas out here was playing Zapp and Roger. That's why we love Ohio. We love the Midwest. Zapp, man, you would have thought Zapp and Roger made their music on Crenshaw. And nigga, we fucking love Zapp and Roger out here. We love the Ghetto Boys out here, Scarface. We always love Scarface out here. You know what I mean? We always love Outkast. When Outkast hit with that Cadillac funky music for your trunk, nigga, just two dope boys in a Cadillac, nigga. You couldn't give a fuck about, man. Just when they dropped that with that, when they came out with that, let me take you on a funky ride, nigga, that was some LA shit too. That was some LA shit. That was just as much. Outkast came with that two dope boys in a Cadillac. Nigga, that is so LA. Southern playalistic Cadillac funky music for your trunk. On Cyberdyne, appreciate that, man. Appreciate that, Cyberdyne. Yeah. Hit the like button. That's why we having this regional talk. It's usually much bigger than what we see. And then the only person you see you'll pin a song down to a region when sometimes the lead artist is the only person on that song from that region. Everybody else involved in that song is from somewhere else. Happens all the time. I wouldn't say Killer Mike's song was a catalyst because regional never really left. It's just that pop, did a lot. Like I'll say that like a lot of your newer artists, because the people of Killer Mike's generation never stopped being regional. It's more so the younger generation that was trying to do everything and go for the pop sound. Because Nas King disease is still New York. Like he said, that generation never really, in my opinion, never stopped being regional. Snoop never stopped being West Coast. Neither did Cube. You know. Yeah. Yeah, Midwest, the South, and the West Coast are united in the fact that, well, especially the South and the West Coast, you can basically drive and you ain't really get hit by that snow. So you can kind of be out there in the streets 12 months a year. That's one thing the South and LA share with. Midwest, y'all get a little cold, so y'all gotta get locked in. But when y'all are allowed to come out, when you can't come out all the way, y'all in a very open environment. It's not tall built, it's open. You see shit. It's like, okay, yeah, you can see over there, So the music gotta reflect that. Like I said, people think from the Midwest, yeah. Yeah, where you are is what inspires you. That's why, like, I'll talk to anybody about this whole African thing, because people, like, I've talked, like, I've had these same conversations with fucking college professors who stood down, because at the end of the day, we all know this one thing to be true. Music is an interpretation of your environment. How in the hell can black people do some African shit when we ain't seen no goddamn Africa? For those who did come here, ain't seen Africa in 300, 400 years. You make the music and the sounds and everything is where you at. And everybody knows this. This isn't a secret. The only people who get their shit pinned on African is black Americans. And that's the last thing I'm gonna say before I get up out of here, y'all. Stop falling for that fucking trick. They don't say European music is African. They don't call Indian music African. The hell, you don't ever hear nobody playing that Mexican music. Doonch, 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 doonch. No one ever says, hey, that's African. They only do it with us because we make the dopest shit. So that's how we can really put this shit down. That's how we can really settle that shit down for once and for all. That's right, Dakin Cass. We're from where inspires us. Where we're from inspires us, period. That's just how you end the debate right there. That's just how you end the debate. They don't go to people playing soca and say that's African. No. They don't go to calypso and say that's African. No. That's Caribbean. I'll start calling black music African if you niggas go to the Chinese and say that they and they say that when y'all go to them and say that's African, then I'll play the game with you. Nigga, when y'all go to India and when y'all go to fucking Saudi Arabia and hear like yah 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 and say, hey, that's African. Okay. I want to see you niggas go down to the Philippines and play whatever jackass music that they play and say that's African. Go tell the Filipinos that. Then come back to me. That's when I'll start playing that game with y'all. I'll start playing that game with y'all when you niggas go over to Iran right now where they dropping them goddamn bombs and say, hey, all y'all music is African. Nigga, take your ass to Romania. Just go to Romania and say, hey, all this Romanian music, nah, it's African. Because you guys are once Africans. Please do that. Please, I want any one of you Pan-Africans in here right now. Go to Ethiopia and tell them their music is Nigerian. Matter of fact, let's break it down even further. All right, go to Ghana and speak to somebody that's Hausa and tell them their traditional music really extends from the Yoruba across the street. And let's see how that go down. Go to Africa. Go down to Burkina Faso and say, your music is South African. And let's see how that works. Go to Morocco and tell them motherfuckers that their music is now you really from this shit sound like Chad to me. I hear a little Dogon in this Moroccan music. I dare you. Yeah, hey nigga, shut up, didn't y'all? They all got, they have drums, don't they? Well, aren't the drums African? If the drums are African, go to India and tell them that. They're African, aren't they? That's when we can start being real. That's when I can start taking you niggas serious. Because you tend to only want to attack black Americans and take our shit. Like we got the most unique music that everybody, and out of all the regions, our music is the most unique. You see how we talking here? Black people, we too busy competing East Coast, West Coast, Chicago versus Memphis, LA versus Texas or whatever. We caught up in this internal war going on while we got niggas saying our shit is African and can't tell you from what part of Africa it comes from and what it is. Like that dude earlier is like, okay, what about the African drums in the Congo Square? I said, okay, name the African drum used in a Tina Marie song. I'll wait. Okay, go to pick any one of them Congo Square drums and tell me last time you heard that shit in the Smokey Robinson song. Tell me last time you heard Rick James. Nigga, tell me the last time you heard Pusha T use an African drum. Yeah, I ain't heard Travis Scott use no African drum, nigga. I ain't heard Usher use one. I ain't heard Beyonce use one. Nigga, I ain't heard Patti LaBelle use one. That's right, some blues can't nobody keep up, so we let them borrow our greatness. Yeah, and our creativity. Yep. That's all I'm saying, okay. If our music is African and if the drum, let's just follow the logic. If the drum is African and you go down to Mexico and you hear doonch, 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 go tell them that's African. The drum is African, all right, cool. Go over to Russia, tell them that. Tell them folks in Russia. Go-go is just Washington, D.C.'s version of funk music. And if it does have African influence, you gotta show me. See, you before you find out African influence, you gotta study the region. D.C. was one of the only regions that black people were allowed to keep drums, and that's why go-go is drum heavy, but that's using American drums and American sounds, American rhythms like the Charleston, rhythms like the swing. Those are all American rhythms that didn't exist in Africa. Africans swung their notes, but the straight ahead swing did not exist in Africa. That's an American creation. The shuffle. Yeah, I want to go to Congo Square. I was like, okay, yeah. All right, show me the Congo Square drum that we use, because them Congo Square drums still exist. They're still there. They make them. You can buy some at the Guitar Center. You can buy some of them Congo Square drums at the Guitar Center right now. When was the last time you heard that shit used in a song by Anita Baker? Never. DC has its own thing. That's why DC music is a little bit unique. They had a little different laws. America allowed DC niggas to get out to do shit that niggas from other cities couldn't do. In certain part, the privileged Negroes. I won't say niggas, Negroes. The Negroes. Niggas talk all that shit about the African influence. Hell, when mostly all of American instruments were created either in America or Europe. And that's another reason why I want to get away from that Africa shit, because if we're going to keep using that Africa music, Africa, then you're going to have to include Europe. And I don't want to include Europe that much, but Europe has more influence on our music than Africa, from the instruments to the scales to everything. You can prove our instruments were either created here in America or Europe. You don't see any African instruments that we use, that's in the music. Earth, Wind, and Fire used the kalimba, okay. Maurice White picked up that kalimba on the on the Open Our Eyes album. Outside of Maurice White picking up a goddamn kalimba, he didn't. If you want to know what happened to R&B, you gotta subscribe to my Patreon. I've done full-on breakdowns. I have like a 4-part breakdown that I did, 3-part breakdown. It was called The Death of R&B. It's up on my Patreon right now. I have another one on my Patreon on how the R&B sound was killed in Atlanta. That's up on Patreon. I got everything I'm talking about right now. I have detailed lessons on Patreon. Y'all gotta join my Patreon and go back. And a lot of Patreon shit, I play the music too. That's right. I'm not liking the video. Europeans and the music that, you're right, the instruments that we got from Europe, they don't play like us. They don't play it like us at all. They don't play it like us at all. And quiet as kept, neither do Africans. Africans got their own style of play that's beautiful and unique. Yeah, J-Day, I got some cold lessons up on Patreon. I mean, I could tell you, I just couldn't break it down. For me to answer how would it take how R&B was killed, I have a whole series on Patreon called The Destruction of Black Music. Go look that up. It's very powerful. It's on Patreon. It's a 5-part lesson, and I'm still add to it. I'm still gonna keep adding to it. It's been a while since I've added to it, but I'm not done adding to it. But I probably got no less than 20 hours of video on Patreon describing how our black music was killed. Even interviews. But I got at least 20 hours of content breaking down how R&B was destroyed. Yeah, he was forced to learn music. Yeah, he had like, man, learning instruments is a shit. Sometimes people is forced to young, but it does so much to expand your mind. Instruments. Yeah, Ludacris, Choctaw, that's a lot of, man. Charlie Parker was Indian. Duke Ellington, Chuck Berry. These are the people, go look at Duke Ellington. I don't see no damn African when I look at Duke Ellington. That's about Dirty A Cal. They limit our story. We cannot allow it. We cannot allow them to limit our music story to the South. Our music is Black American, and the Black American is a mixture of mulattoes, octoroons, Indians, Negroes, freedmen, pepper in some Africans. Africans are not the major part. Again, 388,000 that were imported over a 200-year period. It's just 200 years. From 1619 to 1809, 388,000. That's not that many people protracted over almost 200 years. What about everybody else that was here? And the Black American is those. And we created as a unit something that expresses itself regionally. But because we've been on the move so much, we've been reshuffled around this country. In this country's history, every 50 years is another major reshuffling. 1815 to 1805 to 1855. Major reshuffling around this country when the Louisiana Purchase was added and slaves and freedmen being shuffled around. Then you got the post-slavery. You got the first Great Migration from the 1870s to the 1890s. That went from the rural areas in the South to the big cities. Then the next Great Migration from 1910 to basically 1960 to the 60s, from the South to the North and West. And right now, we're currently in a gentrification reshuffling to where people are having to move out of the major cities into these newer suburban areas that are under-resourced or back to different areas of the country because Black people aren't being hired to make enough money to live in the regions that they were born and raised in. So we're currently in another major reshuffling right now, as we speak. That's what gentrification is. That's why whether you live in Chicago, Memphis, LA, Dallas, your city's being gentrified. DC, New York, it's being gentrified. That's not a coincidence. But with all that being said and done, we're still creating our shit. Look at New York. People say New York is a home of hip hop. Well, not since the Black Americans left. New York probably still would be the home of hip hop if it was still majority Black Americans that was in Harlem in those areas, Brooklyn and shit. But most of them niggas now live in Atlanta and Charlotte. See how that works? But I'm about to get back. I gotta go walk, get Rocky his late night walk. All right, y'all. But I'm gonna holler at y'all tomorrow. Stop this regional shit. It's a bigger story than that. I'll holler at y'all.